Good evening, viewers. Welcome once again to the tower at UNN, where we discuss issues that trend within the week. I am so privileged to have you tonight, and we are ready to give you what we have really come up with this weekend. And as you know, this week we have a lot of issues that have come across the board, and these are the issues that we're going to discuss today. I have with me in the studios, I have Senior Martin Biakuleka, who is an adjunct professor as well as a political analyst with me in the studio. I would call Martin to greet our viewers as we go ahead.
Hello, viewers, how are you? I think this is the time when I should make my disclaimer, which I had earlier on promised. People are used to seeing me on other forums, which are quote unquote pro Honorable Chagulanyi. So when they see me here, they get confused.
Yeah.
And there is some lady in South Africa who has written something to me and said that you people, we don't understand your politics. So I don't know what you people means, but I want to make sure that I inform everybody that I am pro-opposition politics. Pro-opposition politics. I don't know which TV supports who or which TV supports who. I speak to Ugandans who think there is a problem with the present regime. Whoever they support, no problem. To me, there is no problem. When there is a disconnect and people are not on the same page, theoretically, it doesn't mean we should physically fight. That kind of thing is called, my friend Norbert calls it Komanyoko politics. I call it parochialism.
That's true.
We shouldn't do that. We can't fight. I am here in any case to see that we bridge the gap. Thank you.
That's very true, Senior Martin, Richard Martin Biakuleka. I'm very privileged to have you on our show tonight. And with me once again, I have Desire Nakauka, who is our analyst and also a very good writer and reader. Nakauka, Desire, pleasure to have you tonight on our platform, The Tower.
Thank you so much for that intro. The pleasure is all mine. I always enjoy having these Sundays where we come here and discuss the trending issues. I'm really appreciative of this time and having this slot. I've been learning a lot from the program, and it's always nice to just see how us as Ugandans can develop our politics into something that's actually functional for the future of our country.
Thank you very much. And last but not the least, I have Mr. Kisitu Elias, who is a teacher, a senior teacher, is a political analyst, as well as an economist. So we're pleasure to be with you tonight, Mr. Kisitu. Have a greeting of viewers.
Thank you so much, the moderator. To the viewers, I'm so grateful that this time around again, I'm here, such that we can share some information. We can share what has really transpired in the course of the week. To inform everyone, Ugandans, most especially those ones who were born with a lot of blessings from God. I think they are so happy this time around. The Nabanja's fund, they're getting it, and still we are on the countdown of the 42 days. I think that is so new in Uganda, and somewhere else we've never had the lockdown for 42 days, but we are, I think, in the last 20. To my Muslim fraternity, I like again to inform them that our days we have to start fasting, and I think, thank you so much. I'm so happy.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Kisitu Elias. As we were, or everyone is aware, ladies and gentlemen, this week, 2 suspects were charged with murder and attempted murder on General Katumba Amala on Monday. All these were Muslims that were arrested over and were brought to court with great signs of torture. We would like to indulge a lot in the legality that surrounds the torture in Uganda. Somebody is arrested and then taken to court. Before taken to court, somebody has already been sentenced to torture. And I believe there was a law that was established concerning torture, the anti-torture law. Let me start with Senior Martin. Is it very what do you take out of one, the two suspects were brought to court? Two, these suspects, as usual, are Muslims. Three, these suspects were brought to court when they were tortured. They had been tortured. Can we indulge in those three circumstances that surround those two suspects that were brought to court?
Yes. Just like I started and I told you that I put it onto this regime for teaching Ugandans a bad culture. Do you hear me very well?
Yes, you are.
A very bad political culture. They have painted pictures that are very unrealistic, pictures that should not be there at all. Our young people have grown up seeing things that are wrong. For example, the way they see me here and say, now you see that man, he's with those people who don't like Kyagulanyi. So what politics is he playing? Because our people cannot understand. They know that if you don't see eye to eye with each other, you should just fight. When you get someone called a suspect, you should torture them. These are wrong things. It's the same thing. So our people are growing up thinking that a suspect should be tortured. Now, there are two things. We have respect for human rights. Everybody's human rights must be respected, even if he's a thief. If I am near to power any day in my life in Uganda, I will counsel and I will make sure that the mistreatment of suspect stops immediately. A suspect is a suspect. A suspect is not the person who did it. He is a suspect. You are suspicious about that person. That person is not the one who did it.
He's not guilty. Yes,
he's not guilty. You have to prove that in court. So our dear young men, just young people, just like some of you are making noise by seeing me here on UNN and saying that man is very bad, Katiali Nebali. The same way, I'm not bad, is the same way you should learn that a suspect is not guilty. And a suspect should be treated nicely because he or she has not yet been found guilty. Now, another thing connected to that torture is the fact that if you are a policeman or a person of law enforcement, if you have a suspect, that means you already have your facts. Torture presupposes that you are going to get information from the person. So how do you start torturing someone who you already suspect and you have information about? What more information do you want? So when you start torturing that person, it means you have no information. You have no information at all. You are actually postulating and deceiving the population. And this culture was left by Mr. Kaihura. The culture of mistreating suspects. It's very bad. By the way, it is not only a matter of our people in the regime, it seems to be the pervading culture in Uganda. Someone is paraded and they say, Yachikoze. But this is a suspect. But in Uganda today, a suspect is almost guilty. And that is why we are saying that there should be no mob justice, because the mob cannot be the arresters and at the same time the judge saying this
The
person is wrong,
convictors, yes.
and the convictors at the same time. That should not be the case. And I abhor this idea of thinking that when we have a terrorist matter, it is related to Muslims. For those who don't know, Islam is the most peaceful religion in the world. The word Islam itself is related to peace.
That's
so
true.
What then, if it gets in your mind that every Muslim is a terrorist, you are one of the most backward people ever.
That is a sabotage.
Yes, but for people who know our politics, vis-a-vis this regime, you know and you are aware that Mr. Yoweri Museveni Tiwahabulwa is one of the most ardent enemies of Islam. Mr. Museveni has never liked Muslims. Abasalam, he has never liked them. Since the 70s, and there was an incident where a lot of Muslims were killed somewhere near Mbarara in the 70s. And you know, these are all the reasons why Mr. Museveni doesn't want to leave power. Because people will bring up all those kind of things. And that is why changes of power should be handled carefully. Sometimes you need peace talks to convince some people.
That's true.
But the idea of branding Muslims as terrorists must stop. But it has also been heightened by Americanism. Because once the Americans got into this situation with the Muslims, the ISS and those kind of things, you know about that. And then, of course, the Muslim militants waged war on Americans world over. It became fashionable, especially for African dictators who are looking for a few goodies from the West. It became fashionable for them to brand anything Muslim as a terrorist, because they know Muslims terrorist invokes Islamic terrorism and militancy, which loosens support from the West, money-wise and otherwise.
That's true. Yes, thank you, Mr. Let me go direct to Elias. Elias, you're a Muslim, and Mr. Biakuleka has mentioned a very, very pertinent issue when it comes to Muslims, that whenever, especially dictatorial governments want to, get some gifts and money from the West, they have to go on to the Muslims. What's your take about the issue that whoever there is an assassination or an attempt to assassinate, is always the Muslims that are victimized? That stereotype of Muslims being always the ones that have, that expected to have committed the assassination.
Thank you so much, the moderator. But again, to start with this, I'm sure Mr. Martin has tried to make it clearly, and given his age, is a person who saw this. I understand the moderator personally. Again, you experience this yourself. Most of the people, actually, they are number one citizens. Those who call themselves the number one citizens, when they were fighting in the 1986, that when they're coming to power, they nicknamed themselves names from the Islamic fraternity. At one time, I was challenged by some of my students. They asked me that someone is called Salim Saleh. Salim Saleh, praise from which mosque? Sincerely, I didn't know. Up to when I had to go back to make some research to find out how, on which grounds are these people calling themselves this? Again, going ahead to look at other General, is it Moses Ali? General again, Odong somewhere again. Still, there is some other name somewhere. But again, that one stick that
Shabani Bataliza, the late, yes.
The late Shaban Bataliza. I heard that even the first number one citizen in Uganda had that Islamic attached name.
Yes.
And that they got those names in the way of trying to convince the late Gaddafi to give them support, and so that they can take over everything in Uganda. Now, this time around, after them taking over, I think they are taking that route to torture the Muslim fraternity. Indeed, 5 were got by the police, and still they are under their behind bars. At the beginning, not forgetting, there are 2 Muslim men who were again got as suspects by police that they are behind the killing of the daughter to General Katumba Wamala. Right now, everyone is asking what is the way about the first 2 people that were got by police. And we have the 5, and we had something like 4 people were 42. I'm not so sure. Were instantly killed by police because they are trying to fight against it in the process of arresting them. Then we go to the 5. Still, today I was trying to talk to one of my councils. I have a council whom I studied with, the high school, went to university, did a law and so. I tried to ask the gentleman, who is responsible for the torturing of suspects? Because in Uganda, it is clearly known that you're not yet having an offense up to when the judge pronounce it clearly that ABCD person committed ABCD. Meaning that if you're still under the police custody somewhere, you're just a suspect. But still inquired, why is it that they are tortured to make sure that they accept something? Is it in the law that to get the information from someone, you should use coercive measures? Then the answer was that no. Then again, the other thing was, what the other inquiry that I made was, what can such a person do such that those things do not happen again? The answer that I received was that this person can convey his or her dissatisfaction to the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Then still, the law in Uganda does not allow torturing of people. Then the question is, many have been tortured, most especially prisoners of politics. They are tortured, and it is known. Still, those ones who are alleged to have caused some assassinations, again, they are tortured. Most especially those 2 groups, they are highly tortured. Though again, we may be having other cases of people who are being tortured that we don't get to know because of the weak systems that we have in the country. But looking at the Muslim fraternity, my suggestion is, as Uganda came up at one time and it formed its advocate group, a group of lawyers that is from Uganda, to make sure that they can help in the fighting against the rights of people from that side. Still, the Muslim side, I understand we have got very many lawyers. Let the Muslim fraternity form the advocate group, such that we can start to fight for our rights as Muslim people. Indeed, from the time of Jamil Mukuru, Muslim people again arrested. For the killing of General Major Chigungu, again, very many Muslims are arrested. Kawes, Andrew Felix Kawes, the late, very many Muslims are arrested. Still looking at the killing of other people mentioned by a few, very many of them, Muslims arrested. What is their wow? Where are they? We have never seen that ABCD has been released on ABCD because of the assassination of the other. We have never seen that. Then the case of trying to give you a bail or releasing you by the court, moving a few meters away from the court, again you're rearrested. I was watching the spokesperson of prisons. The name is the name was got out of my head, but the spokesperson on MTV sometime back. And the moderate asked the question that where does your responsibility stop? Or in the process of releasing a prisoner, because we always see them escorting the prisoners. Then the person said that the spokesperson said that according to their act of prisons, they after your period expiring, they escort you, you sign out, then after they leave you and you go. When they have to bring you back, you are a different person. You can see. Even then the other was who follows up on the prisoner who has been brought to the prisons from police. Who follows up what transpired the other side? No one. What and the thing was you, the person accused, I think you can see. You, the person being tortured, it is your responsibility to go back and report your dissatisfaction to the judge. Then the judge will decide what to do next. Indeed, we need prayers. People again go ahead and try to sue the government over the unfair treatment, like what I'm seeing on the screen. They are again rearrested and tortured. Some of them fear to go and sue the government because remember that the case, the killing, for example, assassination, it is a criminal offense which is between the state and the individual. The individuals who can sue, for instance, those individuals that you're saying, the Muslims, can they really sue the government? Where can they get the support such that they can sue the government to express their dissatisfaction? Sincerely, find out that no one can help them, even if they feel like suing the government, they can't. And still, another weak area which makes the Muslim brothers to be tortured. The media always comes up at the time of these other suspects coming to court for the first time, the second time, the third time, you don't see the media again. They don't again follow the case. They don't follow them again. What happens? Nobody knows, and everything dies there and then. I don't know what happens. I think in Uganda we have mafiaism politics. Mafiaism politics, which does not favor the suffering of a common Ugandan. Like how Mr. Martin said, it does not favor a common Ugandan. Therefore, if we have discovered the problem, Mr. Moderate, I understand you so good at making research. A problem has been discovered. Yes. Making research about it, what are the recommendations? Muslim fraternity, please form your advocate group.
Yes.
Which will even go up to the international level, such that even those ones who
as
started
you wind up, Mr. Chisitu, on this point.
That is that even the Americans who started it sometime back can hear our outcry. I remember as I conclude, the Africans, this person, is it George Floyd, who was killed by in America that time. And I can't breathe. Everyone became so much concerned. Everyone. I'm a fan of sports. We could in Premier League, you would see people kneeling down, showing some respect of the Black Africans. Something of a sort should come up towards the Muslim fraternity. Thank you so much. I rest my case.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Chisitu. I'll come to a Desire on the same note. Desire, when you look at the situation that we are having regarding the suspects, here you saw what happened and the way these suspects were tortured. And on top of that, there is no any clear signs that show that these people will be really taken to court and then judged fairly. What is your take about what you that kind of stereotype over the Muslims? And two, what do you think the attempt on General Katumba Wamala gives to an ordinary person the way the law are taken in Uganda.
I will start with, we all have seen this transpire over time. The Islamophobia in Uganda exists and has happened time and time again. Every time there's suspects for anything, Muslims are always being pulled out for these crimes. And in most cases, these are headlining crimes. And these are crimes of where actually Muslims, especially Uganda Muslims, are assumed to be guilty before even the point of being guilty. So when I was looking at this situation, it was very important to try and understand all the factors that play into scenarios such as this. First is someone has to first understand how did Islam infiltrate into Uganda, and also like how is that very different from what goes on between the Americans and the Middle East. And then how does Museveni use that and extend that and make that play in his favor? Because there are definitely different playing fields here, whereby Museveni is using a more generalized Islamophobia format that is used by the United States against the whole of the rest of the Middle East in order to extend his rule in Uganda against a very small Muslim group where Islam reached but culture still stayed. Because Muslims in central Uganda do not equate to how Muslims on the East African coast treat each other. And then the remaining question remains, can Muslims even try and get justice in this system? Because the way how I see it for Muslims who are also Baganda, it's like a double-edged sword. You're going to be got for being a Muslim, and then you're also going to be got for being Baganda, because he has not hidden the fact that he is against Baganda people and willing to suppress and oppress Baganda people. Then the lingering question is, can justice ever be found in this system where it's all stacked against? Can we trust this system? Can we trust just the notion that someone gets tortured before they are even taken to court to be read as to what crime they're there for? Just the fact that someone gets so brutally tortured and it's common knowledge. It's not like someone was tortured and we didn't hear about this. Someone was tortured and we all know about this, and it's for a crime that someone has not been even it's not been officially said that they did it. It's just based on an assumption, and both parties need to still bring evidence to support either the innocence or whether they're guilty. So in Uganda, the lingering question is, can you go to this same system, the same police, can you expect the same police to have evidence? Can you expect the same courts to serve law? I think once again, we're seeing a situation whereby our institutions have failed to only serve as to what rhetoric and story the regime in power wants to, and it is to extend militancy and to extend fear and to not facilitate anything. And scapegoating is a huge play on here.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. We are joined by Council Zimbe, Zephania. Welcome to the show, Council Zimbe. I don't know whether we can hear him. Council Zimbe, we can't hear you properly. This issue would help us, by the council to help us and explain the legality. But unfortunately, his sound is still having a technical problem. So I think they're going to correct it as we continue. Senior Martin, there is an issue that you wanted to add on. Would you add on, please?
Yes, please. This issue regarding torture is also a very bad reflection internationally on the political management of the country. When you torture people and they are seen looking like this, and it's all clear, there is even no denial that this was done by state agents, then the state managers are looked at in a very bad light internationally, because torture of this extent implies that the people who did it are not civilized. These are not what they call human beings. These are what I have previously called biological substances. So you are indicating to the whole world that you are not people enough, but you are animals. And that is so sad. And that is the image when your president visits abroad, when your ministers come for a meeting at the IMF or the World Bank or wherever it is. The people who sit across the table and look at you remember the pictures of those tortured people. And the negotiations you are carrying out do not go very well because they are already looking at you as animals in suits and ties who are sitting across to talk to them. So our people in political power should be very careful of these images and these things they do to people. Because when they come out to talk to partners, the partners end up looking at them in another light. And lastly, and Desire has spoken a little bit about it, it's the fact of trust of the state. If the state is carrying out such torture on suspects, it implies that the state is fabricating evidence. It means that the state has no evidence. It is engaged in fabrication. So therefore, it shows a very bad picture to the victims of the crime. I don't know what the victim feels like, but if I was the one, and I'm General Katumba, and I see people who are alleged to have shot me treated like this, I start wondering whether those people actually shot me. So this raises a very pertinent issue of trust of the government. No wonder, therefore, that this NRM government, led by Mr. Museveni, has the lowest amount of trust among Ugandans.
Thank you very much, Mr. Byakuleka, as you try to, analyze. Let's shift from the topic right now, and we look at the issue to do with COVID-19 as it continues to ravage Uganda, because of and we still have the poor health facilities, and the health plan so far put across is very, very much invisible. On this very same note, we have an issue of the court order on the concerning about the high COVID medication costs, and court orders Ugandan government to regulate COVID-19 treatment costs. Let me start with Desire. Desire, here comes a situation that though people are being still ravaged by the COVID-19 pandemic, there's still a lot of issues that surround it, which make people really very uncomfortable. The costs of the costs in the hospitals are really rising so high that some people are not able even to cover them up to take their loved ones after their demise. And here comes a situation whereby one person sues government over this issue of the high treatment. What is your take about the continuous ravaging of COVID, regardless of, and the government is doing nothing to make the issues a little better for the Ugandans?
Dear Ugandans, we should not be surprised that the situation keeps on deteriorating, because what we have in Uganda is mismanagement. Every sector is mismanaged and micromanaged. There's only so much preparedness and so many resources that can actually function the way they are supposed to function. Now it brings me to COVID, and COVID deteriorating and getting worse. When COVID hit the global scene, it was very evident that some sort of, on a global scale, some sort of public health practice needs to be put into position for the public, and at a price that, if not fair, is free. That's one thing that was very fundamental about when COVID hit. Not only in Uganda, but when the whole globe was ravaging with it, it showed how small and how unthoughtful our health facilities were, and how we needed an expanded public health facility. So the irony in Uganda comes down to, yes, Uganda can, it's the more we look at this regime, the more you see this regime playing into stereotypes that are put on African countries and only at the demise of Africa, of the people. So the stereotype here that's being played would be like someone would say, of course, it's in Uganda, a third world country. Of course, people are, are benefiting from corruption. There is a play on corruption here that has not been policed, and which is very ironic because before the IMF funds, one of the things that the IMF funds in that agreement was to help with corruption. So there is a play on stereotypical things that are being put into the public sphere, and we have taken in for so long that they have become so normalized. Like, it's to no surprise that prices are going up, people don't have access to these resources. But then the question is why? If all resources have been given for free, if all resources have been made available through such a big fast campaign, so that there's a whole huge campaign from Oxford so that all these third world countries still get these resources. But why is it in these third world countries that these resources are most expensive, especially in the ones that have dictators as a stronghold? Because South Africa as well is getting the same vaccination, but doesn't have the same kind of rule that we have. So the questions to ask about Uganda's situation is, how does this regime play into stereotypes to normalize this on a global scale, and also to continue to normalize this to Ugandans, and to create a status quo that just allows for any kind of violence, be it in prices, be it physically, be it emotionally, is what we see here happening with the COVID.
Thank you, Desire. Thank you very much. I go direct to Senior Martin. Through June, we saw local media was awash with reports of hospitals overcharging patients, pushing some families to abandon their deceased loved ones in the hospitals, and while others were forced to be released from hospitals for failure to pay their bills. Because when you look at what is happening, the government seems to have, been given money, as it is mentioned. The parliament also released the money for COVID. But again, I think it would have been a policy of government to subsidize some of these bills, because they know it is something that is not economical to have someone's loved one in a very high charging hospital. At the end, the person dies, and on top of that, they even fail to get such a deceased person from the hospital. What is your take, Mr. Biakulek, about the situation regarding the hospitals that are very expensive, and yet the government doesn't come up to subsidize some of these costs?
You see, I don't want to sound funny, but all these problems come about because of a wrong government. This government has to go, because it has done too much harm to Uganda in very many perspectives that people didn't know. This COVID-19 has brought out something, has brought out something that Ugandans must pay heed to. There is gross moral bankruptcy in the population of Uganda. Ugandans are grossly morally bankrupt. Now, one of the tenets of being human, not animal, because you see, we humans and mammals, we are mammals. So we and animals are the same almost, but God gave us something to separate us from animals. And we have morals and dignity, which separates us from animals. Animals walk naked, and they don't even know that they are naked. But for us, we've got that okubikulirwa in Uganda. That sense
Revelation,
of
yeah.
Yes, dignity and moral, the moral perspective given to a special type of animal, making it different from the other animals. So we are superior. Now, but If we descend so low and carry out acts which equate us to the animals, then we lose humanity. So what is happening in Uganda is Ugandans have become animals yet again. They are no longer human. There is no human being that dances on the grave. It is only in Uganda when someone is about to die, animals start dancing. That kind of thing happens in the case of animals like hyenas. Because when hyenas see another hyena is about to die, they get excited because they are going to eat. So Ugandans and hyenas are in the same class. But this has come about. Uganda was not always like this. I would like to assure our young people. Uganda was not always like this. Uganda was a good country where people did not dance at the grave of the dying. It was always a good country. Even in the times of Idi Amin, Uganda was still a very good country. But from the time we got a government of villagers by villagers for the villagers, everything went out of hand. Now what we see is total moral decay. Total moral decay. Because we have villagers in charge. That is why you must always be very careful not to let people of small intellect ever lead a country. Because when they do, people of small intellect, people who came from where you don't even know, once they take over, this is what you get. You don't get a country. You get some kind of cave where man eateth man. Man is about to die and another man is jubilating. He's saying, I'm going to charge this kind of money. That is the hyena being happy that there is a hyena dying which is going to be eaten. Now, I want to tell you that this case in court was very easy for those judges because they are seeing what I am telling you now. And they are saying, no, this is not what normal society does. Let us correct our animals so that they behave properly. Everybody in Uganda who is profiting from COVID-19 is a hyena. That person is an animal. That thing is not a person. I have heard stories of people taking their loved ones in the hospital, and there are people, men and women, seated there without even medical gowns, and they are saying, put here 3 million, put here 3 million. Someone is dying. Those people are hyenas, and that is so sad. But these hyenas have emerged because we have a government of villagers by villagers for the villagers.
Thank you very much, Mr. Martin. Because when you look at what is really happening, it really makes you sad and you feel like, where did the humanity go and what is really going to be the destination of our country, Uganda? Let me bring in Mr. Kisitu in this regard, because being an economist, you know exactly that when a country doesn't have economic policies, that is like the pricing policy. That's why we have all this chaos in Uganda. When you look at even schools where you, that sector where you come from, you find people charging different prices depending on their interest. I mean, and like, there is no policy that has come up, that has been brought across from Parliament or from anywhere to establish the ceiling price or the lower cut price of any commodity that we have in Uganda, be it in the taxi industry or in the medical sector. Everybody charges the way he wants. What is your take about such a situation whereby we don't have a policy that would really regulate the pricing of services in Uganda. Everyone for himself, and possibly God for us all.
Thank you so much, the moderator. But sincerely, Mr. Martin has brought something that has made me laugh. Not to laugh because I'm so happy, but is it, how can I call it? But let me read it. To tell you, Mr. Moderator, and all of our viewers, I could say that I'm a victim of the circumstances. I'm a victim of what you are talking about right now. I got COVID personally. I didn't go to the hospital. I managed it myself. Now I'm verified. I got a phone call. I called my aunt in the village. You know, my man from Mpija. I called my aunt. My aunt told me the signs was somehow weak. I automatically told my aunt that please, you're suffering from COVID. Make sure that you do ABCD. However, she was so relaxed. She didn't do that. The next morning, I called one of my cousins to go and pick her out of the home to the hospital. Then reaching the hospital, they said that she was suffering from COVID. And they charged her over 500. That was somehow fair. 500 was fair, I think. The hospitals which are owned by people who are known, they charge a fair cost. That's on record in Uganda here. All the hospitals which are owned by the proprietors who are not known, like how Mr. Martin said, they charge a cost that is too ambiguous, that is too high. I ain't on record. There is a gentleman who died of COVID, and the gentleman stays at a village called used to stay, now is a deceased, used to stay at a village called Bari in Mpija. They asked for over 60 millions. The hospital is around dozens of naira. It is a private hospital. Over 60 millions, such that they can get the carcass out of the hospital. You know, you look at that and even wonder. Then the court coming up to give a ruling that government should intervene on the increasing prices in the country, which is totally out of order. The government of Uganda cannot do it. First of all, the owners of such hospitals that charge very high prices, if they are not in the government, that they are the very people, then they are the investors who came from somewhere and they paid something to the ministry and they put up a facility. And they put up a facility somewhere. Now such people are the ones that the court is ordering the government to control, which is very hard. The economy of Uganda was liberalized. I think the major services should not be liberalized by the government. The government should take over the major services. For instance, look at education in Uganda. It is too much expensive. If you want your child to acquire quality education, you go to a private school, which charges a very high cost. Government institutions are totally down. Hospitals, government hospitals, if you need quality medication and you go to a government hospital, sincerely, you're just waving your way out of Uganda to visit the Almighty, the Creator. When you go to the private institution or hospitals, you'll get what you want, but at a high price. The basic institutions should not be liberalized, should not be laid in the hands of the private in individuals. Economically, private individuals are rational. They want to give you something small at a very high price. All of them are looking at profits. Looking at what I heard about the government of the late Idi Amin, the government of Obote, that era of Mutesa, the era when Uganda was under the British protectorate and so on, colonialism and so on. All those basic services were in the control of the government. And the workers by that time in the government institutions could work so well, and people would get quality services, which we, the people of this generation, have missed out completely. COVID-19 in Uganda, it is still remaining a major problem. and still people will suffer. Mr. Moderator, to let you know this, where you are in US and other countries, we are ravaged first. We were looking on our screens, looking at what is taking place. We are watching our screens, looking at what is taking place in those countries. The government did not learn any lesson. That what if such a scaffold comes into the country, what shall we do? The government did not learn anything. Still, we had the first lockdown of very many months, over 6 months. We had it here in Uganda. The government again still did not learn anything. This week, surprisingly, I felt so bad. The head, the Department of Planning, Minister of Planning in Uganda, had a press conference, and he openly said that we made a mistake. We planned poorly. The head, Doctor, I'm forgetting his name, but the head of the planning, Minister of Planning in Uganda. What's the name? Yes, press conference this week. We planned poorly, and that is why Uganda is suffering to this level. And I think what that gentleman would have done just to resign, because that statement means that he has failed. The Department of Planning has completely failed to handle Uganda. And if you look at that, who is the top accounting officer in Uganda? The top accounting officer is the #1 citizen, President Museveni. President Museveni, below him, the Department of Planning failed completely. What should they do? Let them resign, because what is taking place in Uganda is totally so bad. Coming up, President Museveni, this week again, during the swearing in of the ministers that did not swear in some time back.
Yes, the recent
they have to promote the habits in Uganda such that we can be in a position of coming against such viral infections like COVID-19. A professor from Bra University coming up with Covidex still, and Covidex is supposed to be sold at 12,000 Ugandan money. That is the cost. But the government still has completely failed to control that. The moment you call unaware, then they will sell it to you at a very unreasonable price. The council, I'm seeing the council is around, will tell us. There is a rule of let the buyer be aware. They put it in Uganda. It is in Uganda here. If you're not aware and you buy in the country, is it the law of habit empty? I think the law of habit. You will tell me, but I always look at it in business. Let the buyer be aware. If you're not aware, you have nowhere to report. If you're aware, then you're safe. But how many Ugandans are aware of that law? How many are they? On 100, you will find 1%, if not 0.5%. So they're using that advantage such that they can snatch money out of the poor Ugandans. They become so happy in the period of us suffering. Vaccinating, 42 days of lockdown. COVID-19, managing it. What have they done? They have not even vaccinated. This week, that some doses that we received got it done. The money which was given to them to procure the vaccine, misused it again. Who is supposed to buy the vaccine? Ministry of Education, Ministry of Health, or who is supposed to procure? They even don't know. And we have
seen the amount of money that has been released. The Minister of Finance doesn't even know.
To conclude again, last time President Museveni came up and boldly on the TV station last lockdown called for financial support, material support, and he even called for companies to bring in double cabin vehicles of over 100 million in Uganda here. Companies contributed, individuals contributed. Where is the accountability of that? They claimed that they were giving out food to people. Who got the food? Which type of food was it? Not that I'm against the government, but at what point you see a lot of weaknesses within those very people. And still, today, they cannot come up, president cannot come up to solicit for support from the poor Ugandans. Those ones who feel so sorry for the Ugandans, they are the ones who come up to say, now I'm giving out to this without even the call of the government. Some Bambi people at the political wing coming up to give something. But this time around, direct it to the beneficiaries, not to the COVID task force. What happened? What went wrong exactly? At one point, I remember telling people that government officials are coming up to communicate good policies. But who are those communicating the policies? They are people of a poor personality. You're sure you're in power, but the majority of the people are not on your side. The people who are supposed to lead are the other side. And if the government can, to make sure that we fight against COVID-19, let it get the personalities that people trust.
Thank you very much, Mr.
People that
Kisipa.
we
Thank you
trust,
very much.
people that we trust will tell us what to do, and Ugandans will do all the things. But if not that, we are continuing to be highly charged. Hospitals are continuing to charge the people. To conclude, Mr. Moderator, to tell you this something brief. Today, very big buildings are cropping up in Uganda. Those buildings that we had to stand still during the first, after the end of the first lockdown, today everyone is struggling. They are constructing day and night. Where are they getting the money? Yet the economy is down. Where are they, CCI? Where are they getting the money? That is why we need, and strongly we need, to change the government. And my young brothers and sisters, my brother Zib, I'm seeing you. My sister, I'm seeing you that side. We still have the energy. The onus is on us to make sure that we struggle, we take up all the positions such that we can reign our country. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Chisitu. Thank you for the submission. We have been joined by Council Zimbe. I wonder whether his, I think his sound has been, technicalities have been solved. Council, I wonder whether you hear us properly. Do you hear us properly, Council Zimbe? Are you hearing us? We still have a technical problem with Council Zimbe. Unfortunately, we wanted him to give clarity on the issues, the legalities of some of these issues. Unfortunately, we cannot have him. Let me go to Desire. Desire, when you look at Mr. Kisitu has given a very, very good analysis of the situation that we have in Uganda and how the issue of policy making on various issues that would help to, to seal up the pricing of some of the services that we need in Uganda is becoming a very big problem, because everybody does and pricing everything the way they want it. I would like to know whether everything here as regards the policy making is in order, because liberalization in this regard brought in a problem of people having the authority to, price everything the way they want in the market. And this helps. This is a very bad precedent when it comes to the economic system, in which the market structure helps to design the pricing of the commodities in the market. Would you give an insight about what do you think would be the solution for the problems that we have, especially when it comes to high costing of the prices of services in Uganda?
There's two things to this that are related to this issue. The first one that I would like to touch on is the assumption that the policymakers in government have good intent towards Ugandans. That's the first assumption that's always being made, that these bodies and these people are there for the service of the people. And in more cases than so less, the government has clearly shown that it's working towards. We have a whole president, illegitimate at the moment, who came out and said he's working for his family and his children. Like, that's a normalcy. Then what do you expect his members of parliament to do? Everyone is snatching away their small gold bag. So that's the first assumption. Those are our policymakers. So you look at that and then you ask yourself what policy is going to be made towards economics, later on everything else, if this is how the people who are supposed to serve the leaders are behaving in this way. Then the second mishap, and the biggest mishap, is you have Uganda, a small country within Central Eastern Africa, that is trying to grapple with this huge thing of global capitalism. And they're willing to let their market determine prices, but the prices are also determined at an international level in a different currency and in a value system that does not work to the benefits of Uganda, let alone most Africans. And they remain within this sector of, and that is not to take away blame from the regime, because the regime is the one that has pushed for this to be a continuation of our resources, not benefiting the people, not benefiting institutions. So at the end of the day, you come to look at the whole COVID situation and pricing, and it's not surprising that pricing has become a tug of war. Pricing has become something that courts should handle. Pricing has become something whereby, and we as Ugandans tired of people always coming on TV and the first words are always tusaba government etuyambe, government etuyambe. Like it's such a normal thing. It's like I think they watch TV and look at Uganda and say tusaba government etuyambe, but every time that call has been said for the past 30 years, when has that call been heard and respected? So to your question, I would first look at who's setting the policy and what their intentions are. And clearly, everyone that is setting policy in Uganda, if not all, I don't want to group everyone into one bundle, but it has been loudly spoken that no policy will go to the benefit of Ugandans, as this remains a mafia state and a government that has its benefits before the benefits of the people and is not ashamed of it. When this is not, the corruption is not hidden from the public. It's full out blown in the public sphere. So it tells you a lot about where we're headed if we do not seek the change that will work for the people. And this yet again is another normalcy just due to the circumstances of leadership.
Yes, thank you very much, Desire. Thank you very much. I would like to have Martin. Martin, to wind up as we try to finish up this topic. If Martin is around, can I have Martin? Okay, thank you very much. Let's have a short break. As we come back, we're going to have the last part of our show and try to discuss some of the other issues surrounding the giving in of money by the Prime Minister, Honorable Nabanja, and there we shall see whether it is a feasible project or not, and try to look at the problems surrounding his working to give out money to our people. Let's have a short break as we come back.
Time takes a toll on everyone, they say. Time is merciless, it won't wait for us to change. Time, I am stressing out, I can't figure out what to say. Oh, time, just give us time. Time, the looking back on pictures and I find it hard to see you and myself in places where we used.
Yes, welcome back to the show, the Tower at UNN, as we come back from the break. And I will not forget to tell you that we are live on our Facebook pages as well as our website, Get UNN, and all other official channels like on YouTube, that is UNN TV official, and then Chimbuge Live as also our original platform on both YouTube as well as on the Facebook. We again come back as we try to look at some of the issues that are trending within Uganda, and one of those issues that we are going to look at in our last part of this episode is as the lockdown goes on, Honorable Nabanja, who was assigned to give out money to the Ugandans, is still hitting a deadlock. I saw, was it on Thursday, there was a launching of money that was done by Honorable Nabanja when she called out to one of the recipient, and the recipient was acknowledged that they had received 100,000 Uganda shillings plus some additional for possibly withdraw. That is an equivalent of $28. I would like to bring in Martin. Martin, here is a situation that COVID money was loaded on a lame tortoise, and here people are complaining that regardless of the launch that was made on Thursday for giving out the $28, it was just for few people, and many of the people are not receiving this money. So I would like to ask Martin your view about what really has conspired regarding Honorable Nabanja's money. Okay. Regarding let me have Desire. Desire. We are having a situation here that Honorable Nabanja's money was sent or was loaded on a lame tortoise, as a saying in Ugandan slang, that there is people, regardless of launching the money on Thursday, the money has not been, very few recipients have really acknowledged the receipt of the money. What is your take about this? And do you think in the Ugandan situation that money is a feasible plan for the vulnerable people, as they say it in Uganda?
So I will start with the money now hitting a deadlock. We should all remember that before the money came out, we were already skeptical of the government, that even if that money will ever come out. But when the money did come out, do we remember how ceremonious it was? Getting help to people who need it the most because of a government-initiated lockdown that they can barely explain what it is for the people and how it will help the people and the ways forward. And giving something like 100,000 was very ceremonious. A lot of people were crowded on a small computer. They had to call the recipient of the money on television. It was something, it brings me back to the ceremonious acts of like cutting a ribbon before you open up a building. It doesn't do much. The building hasn't done what it's supposed to do, but there's this assumption that because we've held a ceremony, it's going to go our way and it's going to work out. And this is the right path to go. So we kind of see our government in this. They say, not they say, but there is someone who has a lot to offer, usually doesn't need a big bonanza to say. We will see it as you go on and work on those issues, because it's more about results oriented other than the imagery. Because the imagery that Nabanja tried to put across was that this is totally under control, but the execution is showing totally mishandled and not in control, barely even understanding the position that she holds and what that means towards the people and how she can help the people. So when you have a leader in power who does not even know how to exercise her power for the benefit of the people, not only because we're being highly critical of her, but because even the first few weeks with her in cabinet are enough to show those results, then you start to question yourself, are we moving towards more ceremonial acts whereby it's ceremonial to receive the 100,000, and then from there it's going to be ceremonial for children to get education, where it has become in Uganda. We ceremoniously open up UPE schools that still don't have scholastic material and books. Then it's going to be ceremonial to receive healthcare. We're already in that situation with COVID. The president ceremoniously announces that we have vaccines, we're working on some ourselves. And so it's become more about imagery than actually execution. Like Ugandans are living in this image of a country that is being portrayed to Ugandans that exists but doesn't exist. But underneath it is a government that keeps on failing and failing and failing. So the only question that I would have for the cabinet and for the COVID relief fund is, for how long is this relief fund going to roll out? We haven't addressed that. How many people have actually gotten access to this relief fund? How much is in this relief fund? All those questions are just questions that are not answered by anyone in office, which brings us to the same problem of, in the first place, how were these resources supposed to be distributed?
Yes, Desire on the very same note. I want you to, when you look at the approach and the criteria that was used to, identify the vulnerable groups, you find really it's a fallacy. There is no proper guidance that can be shown that they are following to, identify those people that are really vulnerable. And when you look at, is it a stunt that they are doing so that they give out to some few people, and then that the process or the program ends from there? Because if you say that imagery element whereby they were showing off that they were giving out, and I mean some other people are complaining that even if they gave one person that they had on the TV, on the radio, there is no any other person that has received the money. Do you think this might be a stunt that is delaying? I mean, they're trying a delaying tactic so that COVID, whatever, goes a little down and then they stop giving out the money.
No doubt at all that this might be a fallacy. No doubt at all that this might be a stunt. Not even might. It may be we're at a place, because this government, all it has done is create one stunt after another. Because the question would be, I would assume that the most vulnerable people are some of the people who don't even have. So my question when this all came into play was, how are we going to determine vulnerable people if they don't have access to mobile money services? That was the first question that I had. Yes, how do we handle people who are living in areas that are very remote and don't have access and are being put on lockdown? How have we handled COVID if it breaks out in very remote areas? All those are situations that the government had no solutions for. And the solution was to give 100,000. So how, apart from that one individual, where are the numbers and the accountability that so far we've given to this and this amount of people in this and this area? As Ugandans, we should start asking for more information, other than, because it was a big thing that Nabanja did on TV, showing that one person get money. But I haven't had a lot of loud noise about in Karamoja we've given out money to 100 or even 200 families. That hasn't happened yet as numbers from the government. So no information is provided to us other than ceremonies that then evaporate into nothing but a stunt.
Thank you very much, Desire. Let me go to Elias. Elias, being that you are living within the metropolitan part of Kampala, I hear even was it yesterday, the Lord Mayor and the leader of opposition merged with the Kampala group members of parliament and mayors, and were complaining that they did not receive any involvement. They were not involved, one thing. Secondly, many Ugandans in Kampala were really left out, and yet in Kampala, all such city areas, metropolitan areas, where people are totally not earning anything, they are not growing crops, neither do they earn a living in this COVID-19, and that would be the most vulnerable people. What is your take about the government keeping quiet on all these, planning by themselves, keeping the cards by their chests, and yet they would be guided by other group of people that have knowledge and have experience on this?
Thank you so much, the moderator. But to start with, Uganda, to the Ugandans who have stayed to the diaspora for very many years, we have Kampala Metropolitan. Kampala Metropolitan is made up of Kampala City, as you know it very well, Wakiso District, Mukono District. That is Kampala Metropolitan. Whereby everyone who is staying in such an area and is not entitled to permanent salary is entitled to getting help from Madam Nabanja. And actually is classified as being a vulnerable poor person. Then we have those living in municipalities. We have different municipalities in Uganda. Those ones are also supposed to get help from the government. We have cities, Masaka City, Bulu City, Jinja City,
Mbarara.
Still Mbara City, yes. Those staying in those cities are also entitled to getting this money. The question, and other cities, municipalities, the question is, which procedure was followed to get or to pick out those vulnerable poor? What I'm telling you is what is on ground. The town clerks were used to get the vulnerable poor, and you would go and register with the town clerk. Still in the city, they used those stages, like we have this border stage, we have the other taxi stage, and so on, to get those ones called the vulnerable poor. What we have to note in this, note that everyone who is dealing in the business of border is vulnerably poor. That's the wrong assumption. Not that everyone who is dealing in the business of taxi driving is very poor. That is again a very wrong assumption. Utilizing those chiefs or the clerks, the town clerks, and so on, to get those ones who are poor again is the wrong approach. Very wrong, and I'm going to say that. Who are the people that know the vulnerably poor people? In Kampala or in Kampala cities and municipalities, the landlords know the people who are very poor. In case, Mr. Moderator, you happen to own your houses, you have got people sleeping in such houses. You know who pays rent regularly. You know who does not pay. You know who doesn't have a husband, whom the husband dropped there and disappeared. You know, you have all the information. You know someone who does not work, who has taken over 6 months without even earning a single coin. You even know the type of job that your people are doing. You know that very well. Still, the religious leaders, because most of the people who are vulnerably poor, they always run to the religious leaders for some help. And in Uganda, religious leaders are the ones who have got that parenting heart. They have always given out to such people. The government used wrong people to get people who are vulnerable, poor. Still, a person who is poor cannot manage to have a phone with an access to mobile money. If sincerely, I'm getting the true meaning of the word vulnerable poor people, and not. And therefore, those people can easily get the money through the other second process that they put up of working closely with the Post Bank to transfer money to those individuals who are supposed to receive the money. Everyone that is getting money in Uganda, that is in quotes, vulnerable poor person, they are not the people who are poor. Because if you are vulnerable poor person and you have a phone, by the end of the first week, because this lockdown now we are in 20+ days, that phone must be sold off by now, such that you can get some money for survival. But you still have the phone. Still, should I take you as a person who is vulnerable poor? The thing is that no. They are looking at the approach that they are using is very wrong. Therefore, all Ugandans are entitled to getting the 100. And still we have people who don't have phones, and they are known, we know them. They are those who are having a helping heart. They would buy stuffs, they go and help them. That sensitization can easily be done. Adverts on TVs, adverts on radios. People can see that and they can help, and they are able to help. Still, when you go to the villages, in the villages, there are people who are poor, who even don't have where to dig. This government brought up the policy of grabbing land from people. People are landless, yet they are in the villages. People don't have where to sleep. People don't have what to eat. And they are very, very poor. They even don't have connections. How has the government cared about those people? It is the local council leaders who can clearly tell you that that person is very poor and needs help, needs the 100,000 shillings. But the government is just looking on. And still, they put up 53 billions or trillions? You will make it right, Mr. Moderator. I don't know. Is it 53 trillions, billions?
53 trillion, 53 billions.
Billions, I think billions.
No, billions. 530 billions.
Yes, billions. Yes.
Yes, 530.
The president, they have got what they call a classified budget, which is not questionable anyway, and no one will ask even for the accountability. Why don't they use such money and they support the poor suffering Uganda? Out of all of that money that is put in the classified budget, they not even get, actually, let me say, they got only 53 billions to support over 500 people, over like 530,000 people. Huh? I think 530,000 people all over Uganda, out of the 49 millions plus,
yes,
45 millions
which is something like almost 1% of the population.
Is it 1% sincerely? The 530,000 people that are going to benefit from this, in comparison to the 45 million people in Uganda here. Sincerely, if we don't do anything, if we don't do something, we as Ugandans, we are likely to suffer up to when Jesus comes back. If we will come back, I'm not sure. But if we'll come back, we shall continue to suffer. Still, the other plan B, to inform you, Madam Nabanja, in conjunction with Post Bank, they are saying that they will be moving with their different vehicles. They have got over 53 branches over the country looking for the poor, vulnerable people to give them money. Cash. Sincerely, the money that has been swindled out of government, I'm seeing that as another way of how they can get it, of how they can misuse that part. And of course, they have already put their path in which they will use to get the money and do their own business. No computer, no records are being taken. No computer is taking the record of the money that is being given inside people. Still, someone came up with actually, let me call it an allegation somewhere, that those ones who are known are the ones who receive the 100,000 in Uganda. Madam Nabanja said this week again, people who have received the money, the teachers from those Guru, for people from Guru send their list first. Those from Fort Portal again, they also send their list. Those from Rila, they sent their list. Their people have got the money first. But again, Madam Nabaja went on to call to confirm, have you received the money? Yes, the money has been received. And they could jubilate. You see people, actually, how can I call it? Becoming happy, actually, becoming Marie Antoinette in the country. And I think we understand what Marie Antoinette did by the time. Told the French masses that if you cannot afford bread, try
a bread, then you
can. Yet by that time, everything was hard. Everything was like the way it is in Uganda now. This situation can clearly describe what Marie Antoinette was trying to talk about in Uganda here. So still, Mr. Moderator, I'm telling you that Madam Nabanja and his policy and her policy will not serve the objective that it was made to. Poor planning department of government. How are we caring about our people? Still, it still is questionable right now. How do they just plan to give 50? That is 530,000 people out of the 45 trillions. Still, Mr. Moderator, looking at the 100,000 to show you that it will not work. Remember, 42 days, 21 days have gone. I'm sure those that we call vulnerable poor, 21 plus days, 20 plus days have gone. Those that we call vulnerable poor have already got loans somewhere such that they can survive. I'm sure with that one. Still, given the places they are looking at, the cost of living is high. We have got rent, we have got food, we have got water, we have got electricity. All of those ones must be paid. Looking at the basic ones, okay, medication, you have got COVID. How much is the treatment of COVID, even if you have gone to a government hospital? Leave only that. We have transport. Borders, you transport those ones who are sick. Will it only charge 2,000 from where? Mathematically, it cannot work. Vehicles, private vehicles, you only transport those ones who are sick. Please, can it charge only 1,000 or 500? It will charge you something like 20. Only buying fuel, and the rest, the owner of the car will get. Still,
yes. As we wind up, Mr. Chisitu,
as I wind up,
try to wind up.
But electricity, how much is a unit of electricity? Still, water, how much is water? Those are the things that you need for your own survival. The 100,000, is it enough or no? My conclusion is 100,000 is not enough. The plan that was followed to get the people whom we call in quotes vulnerable poor does not work, and it is totally wrong. Still, people who are supposed to be used to trust for the vulnerable poor are the landlords, those ones who have got people they are keeping around their homes, renting in different small houses, and the religious leaders from different beliefs. Those ones are the ones supposed to be used. Still, to conclude, in the villages, local council leaders, LC1, and the committees, they know the people who are poor. I submit my case. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chisitu. Thank you very much for that submission. Our viewers, I think we try now to wind up our show. Let's try to be very participative by giving in submitting your question through our numbers that we usually use to send on voices, and also giving us a call to participate in this show. And let me ask you, Desire, as we wait for callers. Desire, you look at the circumstance that surrounds generally, this is a general question surrounding Uganda. It seems like people are totally in disarray. Every Ugandan is for himself. They are trying to earn a living. The living cannot be earned. They are trying to keep home to avoid COVID-19. Home, there is no food. Families are in a disarray, that when a wife sees a husband coming, without giving in the sense of husbandship, also gets lost. And here you find out there will be a lot of even family issues at home because the husband cannot cater for what is expected of him. Can you please look at the social element of the COVID-19 vis-a-vis home, vis-a-vis money for Honorable Navanja, vis-a-vis the high prices of everything? Thank you.
Like, as we've always discussed this before, is economics plays such a huge role because we find ourselves, like, the money economy is very new to the African continent. The money economy was introduced via not only the enslavement of our people, but also via colonization. So money economy and capitalism are things that have been tried on the African continent, but seem not to work. They are failing. They don't only fail because they don't work economically. They fail because they don't function politically and they don't function socially. Because this system allows for a certain level of exploitation. That is why before we even resolve, we have to resolve our politics in order to resolve our economics. Because if we resolve our politics of having thieves in office, because this is one thing that Ugandans, we must remind ourselves of the current situation that we're in. Because every time you realize the situation that us as Ugandans are in, it brings shock to you, and it should bring shock. But it also should be a reminder of what we should never return to. Because you have thieves in office that leads to exploitation. And already this system of getting capital and working for yourself and becoming so rich allows for exploitive measures. So
Yeah, let's have a caller. Desire, as you continue, let's have a caller. Have a caller on. Caller, go ahead, ask your question or put your supplement. Hello, caller. Possibly we have lost that one. We have lost that one. Let's go ahead, Desire.
Yeah, so from that point, if it's affecting your politics, it's going to affect your social, because it's affecting how your leaders rule you. So it affects the social composition of people, how people treat each other, how people relate to each other. So when money is missing in a home and you have no other way to get money,
people, the West decided that each and every Muslim is a killer, or they should be killed, they should be hunted, and the phobia goes on. I'll give you an example of the Rohingya Muslims in China. They have over 5 million Rohingya Muslims in concentration camps, and the West America, wherever knows. And they even this economy in China that is booming is because of the body parts that the Chinese take out from these Rohingya Muslims. You will never hear anybody saying Muslims are dying, and yet they know. Another example is Burma. One girl died. Her father was a general, and they said the Muslim man had raped this girl. Dr. Juko, they killed over 500 people in Burma, and they exiled over 1 million, and the world didn't say anything. When the UN pressured the Burma people to take back these Muslims, do you know what they did, Dr. Juko? They came into the camp and in silence, the Burma generals, and burnt the whole camp and killed almost 1 million people. So if you're a Muslim, Dr. Juko, haven't you heard this?
Yes, I've heard that.
Another example is the Muslims, since the bombing of America. I don't know what the country has done against the Arabs. That is when they started killing each other, and nobody's going there to kill them. They are fighting each other. They are in camps. They're dying of hunger. And the money they get, they send it to Russia to buy arms. Up to the point that one president, I think Sadat, poured chemical weapon on 5,000 women and men, and the world looked on and said nothing because they decided a Muslim must die. And that goes on for the Muslims in Uganda because the West pays Museveni to take care of the Taliban, those in Kenya, those in Sudan, everywhere. So every Muslim that is killed, every Muslim that kills, it doesn't matter. And in Uganda, Muslims have a history. Before, the Muslims never went to school. They were butchers and this and that. But now they're educated, they have jobs. And the government of Uganda systematically is eliminating the Muslims and especially the Uganda. And nobody is saying anything. And even these people who killed the Mutumba and those people who have died, nobody has said anything because the Muslims were there. And if the West says, why are Muslims in Uganda dying? Yeah, because they killed 4,000 people in America. Because you can imagine when these Americans said they caught Osama bin Laden or something, where he was. They never showed us his body. They said we threw him in the sea. Is that humanity? The Jews, 500,000 of them were killed by the Germans. How many Germans are in the sea? At least if somebody is bad, you killed him, why can't you bury him? He's still human. So
That's
there
true.
is a war, I think second or third, that is going to start because of Muslims. They are killing you. And in Uganda, about the COVID and whatever, Museveni decided in Uganda you must die. Dr. Duko, to tell you now, I rang my aunt in Fort Potro. The 100,000 shillings, they never sent them on the phone. They gave them to the chairman, and they have already received the money. There is no lockdown. The bars are working. So is Imbarara. So if you complain about these people stealing the money, they have a right to steal because President Seven has told them. If he was killing
That
back
impunity.
less, now he has
Yes.
COVID to steal them for him and other things. Why is it that the Uganda dying of COVID? Isn't COVID everywhere? You have never seen so many people in Soro, Ankole, and other places dying every day and demanding 500,000 for man of treatment. This man wants to get rid of you, and whatever it is we are talking about is not going to be better. He has given 5 billion to Salim Saleh to distribute among the industry of music. How can you give 5 billion in music and fail to pay 100,000 to the people? He doesn't want to pay the money. And to finish, Mr. Kimbugwe, if I must let you know, and this is the truth, I will send you the names. This country is ruled and everything that goes on decided by 17 people only. So these governments, Nabanya, whatever, they are working on behalf of these 17 people. These 17 people appoint their ministers how to run the government, just 17. And their aim is to put Uganda down, and you are already down. So not now, you don't need to fight for 100,000. You have to liberate yourself. If you don't, you are going to die like each and every Muslim. Dr. Duko, you are Muslim. Look at what I have told you. Look at the Arab world, how they are dying. Ask yourself why. People are not safe if I have a Muslim and he's my neighbor. There is phobia. They have planted so much hatred in us against the Muslims that we don't even give them chance. And I'm finishing by telling you that in Swaziland, I think 50 people were killed in the mosque while they were praying about a year or two ago, and the neighboring mosque. 50 people were killed, and the government told us that we have caught the man who killed the 50 people and in the neighboring mosque and the ones in the street. Really, is it possible for one to come and what did he have? Grenade? He had just a gun to kill 50 people and be everywhere and kill them. They can't even defend or tell you the truth because no one gun cannot kill 50 people. It is very
Okay.
sad.
As you wind up, please. As you wind up, Jaja.
For the Muslims. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jaja, for your contribution in this talk. Is areas you have heard how Jaja, UNN Jaja was saying that the situation regarding Muslims all over the world seems to be uniform, and like whenever anybody wants to justify his action, he will use the Muslims as a scapegoat. Would you comment briefly about that as we?
Yeah, to say something about it, my brother, please, the moderator. Of us, the Muslims,
Okay.
we should make sure that following the legalities that have been put in place, we become very organized. If it is either the schools, Muslim schools, let us set up as many schools as possible. If there are groups of lawyers, let us have as many as possible. If they are the hospitals, let us put up very many hospitals as much as we can, such that we can extend help to most of our Muslim brothers and sisters. But if we don't do that, still we shall be looked at as people who are so down. I'll agree with Jaja. So in the past, Muslims we underlooked education. We underlooked education. We didn't go to school. We didn't bother about the future, how it will be. Now the future is paying us. The Muslims who are now alive, who are now living, let us work as much as we can. We take up leadership positions. We support our fellow Muslims. Still, we put up institutions owned by Muslims, and we also become very, very sound in everything. But Mr. Moderator, as I conclude, when you look at the International Court, how many Muslim judges sit on it? Don't we have them? What went wrong exactly? What is wrong? When you look at this, the field of sports, when you look at the management of the Federation of International Football Association, how many Muslims sit there? What is wrong?
Mr. Chisitu, we have a call.
So we should take over. We should always be very much vigilant as Muslims, and we take up all the positions. Thank you.
Let's have. Yes, caller. Yes, caller.
Okay.
And
Okay. Mr. Katerega,
yes, please.
thanks for the show. Am I live, really?
Yes, you are. You are live and everybody's hearing you. Yes.
Okay. Okay, Mr. Katerega, thanks for the show. Desire and the rest. Thank you very much for the show. But my main point about this whole situation, it's we are experiencing this because we are living in a failed state. So when you're living in the failed state, many things we are about to experience more and more and more things. By the way, for me, I'm not shocked because now I'm seeing Uganda in an upside down situation. I'm not shocked at all, whatever is happening. Because the first time when COVID struck us, we got funds. And what did they do? Did they construct hospitals? No, they didn't construct anything. They just used everything for their own benefit. And then this time round, still it's the same thing. And now they are so. Then my question is, who owns these hospitals where people go and they overcharge something like 6 million? And they are so shameless that even if you lose your person, even if that person dies, you still have to pay the 6 million and above before you get the body. So those are the signs and symptoms of the failed state. And as for Nabanja, Nabanja, I don't expect anything from her. Because today she comes up with another story. Tomorrow she will come up with another story. The other day she will come up with another story. Last time she said that the people who are going to receive the 100,000 something is people who own this certain type of funds of cell phones. So what of the rest of the world? These are all. The only thing we have to do is to overthrow this government. If we do not overthrow this government, we are going to continue living where we are. We are going to continue living abroad, and there is nothing we are going to do about it. Nothing is going to change. We just have to overthrow this government, nothing else. So if we do not overthrow this government, we are going to continue in we call it HVAB. Everyone is going to run away from HVAB. So that's it. Otherwise, guys, thank you very much for the show. We just have to coordinate ourselves and get away from this disaster.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our caller, for that insight and giving us. Let's also have some other voices that have been sent. Let's hear them, and we shall wrap up at the end as we get to almost the end of our show. Can we have the sound? Can we have? Yeah, it's coming.
I wanted to say, to comment on the issue of the health sector. I think this thing came about when these people had to put out privatization of what? Of government facilities. And they schemed in that they are the shareholders in these companies and all these facilities. So it is very hard again for them to come out and regulate themselves. That is why you see that they have hiked fees in hospitals to the extent of even confiscating dead bodies. Because they can't lose and they can't come out to regulate themselves. These are business people. It's their business.
Yes, go ahead. Do we have some more voice, producer? If we have, then we continue to. Okay, Desire, you have heard the caller, the way she articulated the issue and was saying that it's all these are cornering to one direction, that is having a failed state, and the state with any way we cannot have anything corrected when we have a failed state. Can you please reply to the lady?
If you're Ugandan and you haven't come to that conclusion yet, then I don't know what country you would be living in or hoping to go back to live in. It's been very evident that we live in a failed state. Only in failed states is militancy only in failed states do you have, like, as Ugandans, we should understand that these things are actually intentional. They're done intentionally. They're not done out of mishaps. They're intentional. It's intentional to impoverish the people of Uganda. It's intentional to unleash violence towards our Muslim brothers and sisters. It's intentional to have poorly educated Ugandan. And if these are the intentions, you cannot tell me that this government serves the people. It is a failed state headed towards a banana republic. And the only way that we can see the change that we need or get access to the services that we need, an overthrow of government is president. Even just the fact that we cannot get rid of this illegitimate president after he has changed the constitution twice to serve his own needs shows you how much of a failed state we are. That basically means parliament doesn't function. There was a siege on parliament and no one talked about that after that moment. We only talked about how the fight happened and how we became a meme. We became a joke around the world. but that was a siege on Parliament. And if Parliament is not functioning, what other sectors could be functioning? So we've been living in a failed state for a longer period of time than we assume so. I assumed it was the past 10 years or the last decade, but it seems like this has been going and brewing for the past 20 years.
Thank you very much. As we wind up, let me have Mr. Chisi to wrap up, and then I'll bring Desire to say bye-bye to our viewers. Mr. Chisitu, can you wrap up in 2 minutes, and then we close down this show?
Thank you so much, Mr. Moderator. To inform you something new, maybe that we've not talked about, the Parliament of Uganda is no longer sitting these days. The clerk of Parliament produced a notice that they are going to fumigate the Parliament. And even if it is having a Zoom meeting, or sitting somewhere in Kororo, or sitting in Makerere Freedom Ground, or whatever, the Parliament does not sit. Then they went ahead to form up a committee whose name is not known, which is calling people that are calling the frontliners on COVID-19 to question them about some fund misuse somewhere. And the Parliament itself is not aware, and the members of Parliament did not seek that. And sidelining with my sister, Desire, that the Parliament is not functioning, I'm sidelining with her 100%. Then still, to everyone, the Ugandans, please, the courtesy is on us to make sure that we observe the standard operating procedures such that we can overcome this pandemic. But the government will never come up to do something positive on our side. And therefore, I conclude by informing all the people that we should go into leadership, which we should struggle and we come into leadership. And personally, I must inform the world that I should stand for being a member of Parliament, and still we try to fight as much as we can to see how we can make things happen. The moment we reduce their numbers in the House, then we shall have done something. I thank you so much. Thank you so much, the moderator. Thank you so much for everything. Hope to be with you next time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chisitu. As before you go off, we seem to be having a caller or a caller that wanted to talk to us. Is the moderator? I mean, is the producer can give us the voice or the sound of the person?
So, thank you for serving us today, UNN team. I want to make sure that I mention about this incident of General Katumba, as you mentioned earlier in your program. I want to emphasize that we need to expose Mohoz. Mohoz is one of these people who is behind the scene and acting all these atrocities, performing all these atrocities. He was definitely behind the attempted assassination of General Katumba. So there is no doubt about it. And they're camouflaging, pretending that these men, characterizing them as Muslims instead of calling them citizens of Uganda, that they're the ones who murdered General Katumba's daughter. It is Mohoz's fault. And what the heck? Why did they remove the cameras within a certain kilometers? Why did they remove the cameras? Okay, and why was Mohoz one of the people to show up around the crime scene? I mean, these are all questions to be asked around. Let's not be fooled, and let's not, because these people, what they are doing, they're trying to point out Muslims, because the West uses Muslims as their fallback people to blame for every kind of world incident that happens within the world. But let's not fall into that trap. That's a trap. They have set us up to think that all Muslims do this kind of crap, okay? It is them that are performing this type of atrocities, and they are setting up these murders, and then they are, perpetuating it on other people. It's other people, like the Muslim people, doing it. It's not them. Let's put it back on Mohoz. Mohoz is the center of all this attempted murder of General Katumba and actually the killing of General Katumba's son. It is him. We should reinforce it as is, and we should not become the killing as Mohoz's attempted murder, because it is his. I have no doubt. Let's collect the evidence.
Thank you very much. Thank you, our caller. Our voice message that you is very elaborate on what is really happening. Yes, Desire. Would you say? Would you want to comment on that, or and then finally you say the last words and then say bye bye to our viewers?
Yeah, I think I'll do it in one go. One thing that I want us to remember is also the war on Muslims by the West didn't only start via 9/11. It has existed and has a history of its own. But I'll use the example of the Second World War and what happened with Iran, and how the relationship between the United States and Iran has always been bitter, and how this image has been sold and sold at certain points, and then it's expected of other places to pick up. We discuss this. We do a lot of copy and paste, and it doesn't even fit our demographic or where we are or our culture. But these leaders seem to just be doing copy and paste of ideas. And we've all been here before. Like, I've been listening to UNN programs, and one thing that was very fundamental in all the high profile murders that happen, always at the scene, you start to see big people who are never at crime scenes appear at the scene. So my question would be, how is that body, how are the police going to function, and how are the people who are meant to investigate this going to function if the president's son is at the scene? Isn't he with the SFC? Since when is the SFC in charge of investigating in that jurisdiction? There's a lot of lines that are blurred and that don't make sense. And they don't, because it's in Uganda, and because everyone now in power just does how they just carry out their duties how they want to, how they wish to, regardless of whether it's moral or immoral, and in most cases it's immoral. So as I finish today, I would like to remind all of us that getting more Muslims in power or to participate in politics will not help. It's the same way as getting more people who are impoverished to participate in politics will not help. What we need to do is actually overthrow this government and come up with at least a system that is built on the needs of the people. Because unless we have a system that serves the people and is built on the need of the people and will not allow for any sorts of discrimination and will actually support and serve the people, until we have come to such a conclusion where leaders are for service instead of enriching themselves, those are some humps that we have to go past before we see ourselves have a kind of Uganda that is beneficial to the Ugandan people. But until then, if leaders continue to only service themselves in opposition and out of opposition, we're never going to see a parliament that serves the people. Even though you put 100 more Muslims in parliament, if the leaders only serve themselves, it will not resolve more Muslims being scapegoated. If you put 100 impoverished people in parliament, it will not still solve that solution until the leaders serve. I cannot stress this much more. Until our leaders are serving the people, we will not benefit, and we're the ones who give them the power. So as the people, we hold the right to move them and install leaders who actually are for service and maintain that dictatorship as a people over the people who rule us, because this is not acceptable.
Thank you very much. Can you say bye-bye to our viewers as we wind up?
I really appreciate, thank you, moderator, for having us here, for the topics that we've discussed. To our viewers, thank you for listening. Thank you for staying with us throughout this conversation. And may we continue to have more conversation. Let the conversation not end here, but push the conversation. Talk to other people about this conversation. Let's build conversation hubs. Because if we are informed, if we keep ourselves informed and we keep our minds flowing on how we're supposed to handle this government, we shall not fail to overcome this government, especially if we stay laser focused on the issues that affect us, that affect our families, that affect our people, and we want to see change. And we keep having conversations. I cannot stress how important conversations are. Talk to a friend, talk to a family member, spread the message, keep yourself informed, read, do collective reading, watch shows, watch people that inform you, take what you need and spread that word across, because the time has come and we have a chance now to oust a dictator, and that chance doesn't come around often. So thank you to our viewers as well.
Thank you very much, Desire. Thank you very much, Mr. Chisitu. For sure, the discussion continues. The discussion continues on the platforms that we have, social media platforms, that is YouTube or Chimbugwe Live, YouTube, UNN TV Official, and all other our radio station, and as well as other platforms like our website. The problem that we have in Uganda, as I always say, are problems that will backfire to everyone the moment we don't solve them. It is our obligation and our duty as Ugandans, whether you are in the diaspora or in Uganda or anywhere, to have a participation in the running of your country. And there is no any way it's going to be done, not until you come out yourself and declare that the revolution has started. Every one of us is obliged to having a say and a participation in the way our country is being run. It is a discretion upon everybody to have a good future for their children and their great children, so that they always talk about living in a very conducive and nice, as well as a healthy Uganda for everyone. Leaders, our viewers and our listeners, we cannot go beyond this. We always appreciate you, and I can't forget to appreciate our producer, Principal Chimbukwe, who has been there for us to make sure that this show goes right. And I also appreciate all our callers that have endeavored to call and then be able to participate in the show. I also thank everyone who is viewing from all corners of life, corners of the world, for their effort. They are trying to put in their money to buy that data and then be able to, hear and listen to us. Don't forget to tune in once again next week on the same time, Sunday. I really apologize for we had Council Zimbe, who had come in to discuss some of the legalities that surround some of these issues. However, we are unable to have him through because of the technical problem, and hopefully one time we shall bring him over, and then he'll be able to articulate those legalities surrounding some of the issues. We had a lot of questions we would ask him, especially when it comes to the legality of some of those issues. Don't forget to tune in next Sunday, the same time, and continue to serve and guide on our UNN television, because this is where we have only the truth among the truth, and we're always ready to give you the truth within its uncensored level or uncensored way. Please tune in once again. Don't forget to also give in to make sure that this television of ours also continues to, of course, to work for us. Share all our videos to everyone. If you can you please record them and give them to those people that can really also benefit? And also make sure that you call other people to also participate in this show or participate in these programs that we always come up with. Thank you very much. We can't go beyond this. I thank you very much once again, and I hope to see you once again next Sunday. Have a blessed day and have a blessed week or coming week. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.